The following is a sponsored program paid for by First Alliance Credit Union. Welcome to Good Money Moves, featuring Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union and Andy Brownell. Here's Andy Brownell on Rochester's News Talk, 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome to Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell with Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union, Director of Brand and Digital Member Experience. Hi, Jenna.
Hey, Andy.
So October is finally over. Actually, I wish it lasted longer because now we're another month towards winter, but hey, that's the way it goes. We covered financial fears during the month. That ranged all the way from debts to that feeling that I'm never going to have enough money. And last week we talked about why we didn't need to be scared of money. That money is a tool that does not need to control us. We can use it. We can control it. How's that?
Yes.
So now that October is behind us and we're into November, what are we going to talk about?
Yeah. So I'm wondering if you've noticed a pattern that we've fallen into over the last few months, and not necessarily the financial fears pattern. But whenever we talk finances, there's a certain topic that always seems to come up. Do you know what that is?
I wouldn't have a clue. At all, Jenna. I can't imagine what it is. No, actually, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to talk about.
Yeah, a budget, a spending
B
plan.
word.
The best word, budget.
Okay. Obviously, that would have been my guess.
Yes.
Oh, I mean, it seems like every time, well, it's inevitable. If you're going to talk about finances, you're going to be talking about budgeting.
Yes. Yeah, and there's a good reason for that, right? I mean, budgets are an incredibly powerful tool that put you in control of your money. It shows you where you're spending money each month. It helps you prioritize your spending, and it can help you start planning for the future. But a budget can't do everything. Believe it or not, budgets and spending plans have limitations. And knowing what the limitations are equally as important as knowing the benefits of budgeting.
All right.
And so when you know what a budget can't do for you, you'll know what you can realistically expect from it, which then can stop you from getting frustrated and giving up altogether on trying to manage your spending plan.
This is going to be interesting. And we do talk about budgeting a lot, how it can help. I mean, the Swiss Army knife of finances, right? The budget. So what is it that budgets can't do?
Well, the first and probably biggest limitation of budgets is that they can't actually control where you spend your money. Just because you made a budget doesn't automatically mean that you're going to stick to it, right? And then so instead of you having to keep track of your spending every month and make sure you're not overspending in any category, right? You have to do that. The budget doesn't necessarily automatically do that for you. There's tools to help make that process easier, but you still have to be in control of what you're using your money to make purchases for. So if you're tempted to spend more money than you've budgeted, say on a video game, for instance, a budget won't prevent you from spending that money if you really feel like spending it.
Yeah.
So
you can talk yourself into anything.
You can. And all the budget can do, I shouldn't say all it can do for you. All a budget does is let you know how much you plan to spend in a certain month in certain areas of your life. But it's up to you to decide whether or not you follow it, which can feel really frustrating, but it's not unusual, right? Trying to be disciplined about something is always frustrating at first because you are trying to change a habit, and changing habits is hard. It doesn't matter how big or small of a habit. And it requires you to think about it all the time and continue to make a decision that goes against what is easier in a lot of cases. So if you're trying to reach a goal or learn a new skill, like managing your money, that is a skill that you have to learn how to do. You have to learn how to do it yourself first. So, however, it's a good thing once you ultimately have that control over your money, that there is a big, huge reward at the end of all this effort.
Maybe in the future with the AI technology, I'll be able to create a budget, and if I have a tempting thought to stray away from my budget, I get a little shock or something.
Oh my goodness.
Don't do it.
I mean, that's one way to go about it, Andy.
If you lack self-discipline, let the AI take care of it for you. $1 million idea.
Whatever works for you. Everyone's different. I will skip the shock therapy.
I was going to get the plain water, but now I'm going for the Perrier.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, I think, the point being, you can decide to spend more money than you were planning if something unexpected happens, right? I mean, you think about all this, you can have the best intentions walking into the store, like you were just saying, or the best intentions for a whole month, but then an old friend shows up in town, for instance, and now you have to go meet them for an outing and spend money that you maybe had planned on something else, and you have to then wine and dine them somewhere, right?
Yep.
Sometimes things happen, and you can take the amount you overspend on that particular item and try to manage it and pull it from another area, but you almost have to plan for unexpected things like that to happen to help keep yourself on track.
So basically, the budget's like anything else, it's a tool.
It is.
The work is up to you, the discipline part.
Mm-hmm.
And having said that, it's probably pretty good that you can decide whether to follow the budget or not.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you'll get in trouble. I'd rather be able to have the flexibility to make mistakes once in a while in my budget and live and learn from those mistakes than have it mandated in some way.
Yeah.
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 But
yeah,
you can build into the budget too that, as you mentioned, a little bit of an ability to make those mistakes or straying away from the plan.
Exactly. Right. I mean, especially right now, as prices seem to always be changing, right?
Yes.
Still going up and up, never down. I don't mean they're going down. That would be nice, but no, most of them are still going up. So you can have the best intentions and still, your budget might still not be quite where you want it to be. But that does bring me, to the next really limitation of budgeting that you should be aware of. And that is that budgets can't account for changes from your normal routine. So, for instance, if you take a last minute trip, you might spend more than you intended on things like gasoline or eating out, and a budget can't automatically account for that kind of change. And a budget also can't account for larger life changes, right? If you have to take out a loan, maybe you got in a car accident and had to buy a new car, for example, you'll have a new monthly expense that you don't currently have in your budget.
Right.
So you do need to adjust and fine tune your budget over time to figure out where that monthly expense is going to come from. Do you have the funds to actually cover it? Otherwise, you'll either miss your loan payment or potentially miss another essential expense because you're not paying close enough attention.
That is an important part of this, right? It is a living document. It's constantly needing adjustment and changes. And and that might be part of the frustration, I think, that people think if they just set the budget and let it go, it's going to be okay. And then, of course, it isn't going to be okay. And things get out of whack, and then they just throw up their hands and go, it's too much. Can't take it.
Exactly. And I think, too, but it doesn't have to be a negative thing that happens either for the changes in your budget, right? If you get a raise or you get a job that pays more than your old one, right? Those are reasons to adjust your budget plan as well. And because you're going to have to plan for how to spend that money so that you can reach your goals, hopefully a little bit faster, right? So it's all about, again, budgeting is really just boils down to how much money do you have coming in and what are the most effective ways for you to spend that money to meet your needs and make movement towards your wants, right? That's really what it comes down to. So, but I think, that's ideally, to your point earlier, why you should really be reviewing your budget monthly at, and if you have a little bit more irregular income, maybe more frequently than that. But I think it's important that you understand when you plan for extra expenses or even getting extra money beforehand, you can figure out how to afford these extra expenses and kind of adjust your budget as needed. So, and even if you don't have to truly adjust your budget every month, you should at least adjust it when you know a big expense is coming, like holiday shopping, right? That's right around the corner. If some people have probably already started on it. And you should also just, look at your budget if you know you'll be getting that bonus, right? Year-end bonuses, or maybe you finished a big project at work and it's going to be a nice windfall, right? Plan ahead for how you're going to use that money so that you aren't tempted to just spend it willy-nilly. Have a purpose for it, right? You'll be able to figure out how to use it to really its best effect. You can use it to fund your financial goals. You can use it to pay off debt, or, there's nothing wrong with using it to do something nice for yourself or your family as well. So,
yeah. Or put it towards that emergency fund.
Exactly.
Which will really help you out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's funny. It's the longer you budget and do the spending plan, the more of these little envelopes or buckets you're going to end up having.
Yep.
Because these things will come up and you'll go, you know what? As you point out, holiday gifts. Boy, you want to take stress out of your life, actually budget for the holiday gifts.
Yeah.
And then pay the bills. You go, okay, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
The money was already there.
Yes.
All
exactly.
Right. We're talking about budgeting, the key to all of this. With Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union, it's Good Money Moves. Back in a moment on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Welcome back. It's Good Money Moves on News Talk 1340 KROC AM 96.9 FM with Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union. So if we're working on the budget and doing the comparison of a budget as a tool and taking it a little bit further, and you're having to constantly tune it up to make sure it matches your current circumstances and financial situation. Mm-hmm. What else is out there that a budget cannot do for us?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to this a little right before the break. Budgeting can actually be kind of difficult if you have an irregular income.
Oh, yeah.
So, and by irregular income, I'm not talking about people, that have jobs where they aren't 100% sure what they're making every month, right? That's what I'm talking about. So think about wait staff that rely on tips a lot for tips, or freelance workers, gig workers, those who tend to do things like drive for Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, that kind of thing. And even many small business owners, right? Especially when they're first starting out, there's no guarantee of a consistent profit every month. So these are times when it can be difficult to feel like a budget makes sense. So when most financial experts talk about making a budget, they always say to total your expenses and then subtract them from your income. And that's really good advice if you have that steady paycheck. But if you're not sure exactly how much you're going to be bringing in each month, that does make budgeting harder. So really, it's, how do you create a budget when you don't know for sure what you'll be bringing in each month? It's not easy.
Yeah, it's got to be hard. But does that mean that the budgets won't work for those people? The people that you're talking about without the regular paychecks that have this variable income? Is there a way to make it work?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah, you can. The first thing is to make a list of your most basic needs, right? The bills you automatically have to pay every month, right? And then compare that list amount of money you've received in 1 month and make sure that it's enough to cover your basic expenses, right?
So take your worst month.
Yes. Yes. The month you made the least amount of money in.
Yeah.
And say, was this enough to cover my basic expenses? Because once you know your necessary expenses are covered, you can plan how you'll use any money you earn above that and beyond that, knowing that the least amount that you've received in a month is enough to cover those basic needs. So, and you can put that extra money towards discretionary expenses or build up your savings or, whatever. And you can also look back at your income over the past year and figure out what the average is that you've earned each month and budget towards that. So then when you make more than that average, you can set aside those funds for when you don't make as much as average. And so it will kind of start to balance out that way. And the nice thing about budgeting when you have an irregular income is that you can at least make sure that all your necessary expenses are paid off. So you won't be in trouble if you do end up in more of a lean month. So really, budgeting is almost even more important when you have that irregular income.
I can certainly see that having a plan because most of those jobs, you have certain times of the year or that's when you make your dime.
Mm-hmm.
And then other times of the year, you're barely making anything, especially if you do commission work or something like that. So just have a way to ride the storm out. Well, I actually not even ride the storm out and take the money that you're earning when the money's coming in good and spread it out, is what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it's time to take another break, Jenna, as we're talking about budgeting, what budgets can do for you and now what they cannot do, or at least things that you'll have to do differently to make them work for you under your circumstances if they're a little bit different than the person who's pulling in a regular salary. Let's put it that way. It's Good Money Moves with Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union. Back in a moment on Newstalk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
Good Money Moves continues in moments with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union. This is News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM. We're talking Good Money Moves with Andy Brownell and Jenna Taubel from First Alliance Credit Union on Rochester's News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.
It's Good Money Moves. I'm Andy Brownell. Jenna Taubel is with me from First Alliance Credit Union. We're talking about budgets.
Mm-hmm.
There are limitations in some cases. And before we went into the break, we were talking about people who rely on commissions and tips or seasonal work. Think about that.
Yeah.
The people are really, really busy in the summer doing carpentry or construction work and not so busy in the winter months. And I guess I really never thought about how you'd handle that in a budget situation.
Yeah.
So it's nice to know there is a way to do it.
Yes.
So what else should we know that a budget cannot do?
Yeah, so I think it's important that people understand that a budget can't always work the first time that you set it up, and it actually probably will not.
Right, I was going to say.
The reality is it's going to take many iterations to get it to a point that is realistic for your financial situation and your habits, quite frankly.
You will, the first time, completely underestimate how much you buy in groceries.
Yeah. Or you're going to look at it, set it up knowing that you spend a lot in groceries and go, I'm not spending that much in groceries anymore. And then you don't. And then you just think you're not spending that much in groceries. And then you go, this was my life experience. I'm only going to spend so much on groceries this month. Then you go back and do your budget. And all of a sudden you've spent twice what you spent the month before somehow. It's like,
yeah.
But
there's a couple of those budget items and going out to eat too.
Mm-hmm.
That's another one that you think, I'm not spending that much money going out to eat. Yeah, you are.
Yeah, especially these days. My goodness. Yeah, but we've talked about kind of the core of creating a spending plan. A budget is pretty simple, right? You list all your expenses, you add them up, you add your income sources, you subtract your total expenses from your total income and kind of see if you have enough money to pay all your expenses. And, if not, try to find ways to lower your expenses until they're equal or less than your income, right?
Sure.
However, there are a lot of different methods to go about creating a budget that are available. And sometimes even just deciding which one of those you want can take time because you have to kind of practice them and decide which ones work for you, right? So some of these methods really center around how you structure the budget. So in other words, where does your money go each month? So for instance, the zero-based budgeting method is where you make sure every dollar gets allocated to a budgeting category, right?
Yeah, that's
And
what
then
I do.
and that's pretty common that's usually how most people set up a budget. But there's also the 50-30-20 budget. We've talked about that before on the show in some pretty great detail. That's where you allocate 50% of your income to necessary expenses, 30% to your discretionary expenses like entertainment, eating out, 20% of your income then goes into savings. And that's the extent of doling out your money.
Okay.
So other budgeting methods center around how to help you actually stick with the budget that you've created. So, and everybody's different. Everybody manages their money different. Everybody likes to think about things differently. And so again, this is where it's like maybe try out a handful of different methods and find the one that fits your style best and what works for you and what helps keep you motivated. And some people really like having visuals. They don't want to just look at a bunch of numbers, right? They want to see it. So for instance, like the My Money feature in First Alliance online banking will show you how much you spent in these certain categories and kind of give you some graphical representations of what that looks like and can help you set some savings goals, things like that. So that's one way that might work to help keep you motivated is to see that more graphical representation of your spending. You can also use something like the digital envelope system where you open up multiple savings or checking accounts, label each one with your budgeting categories, and then every payday you kind of transfer the money between your main account where you get your money direct deposited into these separate accounts. And then once the money's gone, it's gone. And you can keep track of it.
Talked about this before, and I think I've asked you at First Alliance, can I get that? I mean, almost set up like an automatic feature that I set the parameters up and my paycheck comes in through direct deposit and just bloop, it goes into those accounts.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes, you can. Yep. Yeah, you can do that a couple different ways actually, and just depending on how your paycheck comes in and what account that comes into, there's a couple different ways that one of our member advisors could help you kind of set up that method. You can also do it on your own through online banking once you have all those accounts opened.
Very nice.
Yeah. And I think, really the point of all this is that there are a lot of budgeting methods out there. And like I mentioned, there's no one size fit all solution. And if you're having trouble sticking to your budget, or even if you're getting frustrated trying to create it, don't give up. Maybe just try a different method, find one that works for you, create a new style. Maybe it's a blend of multiple ways to go about this because that's what works for you. Really, at the end of the day, it's all about what helps you stay on track, what helps you reach your goals, and what looks good for you is not going to be what looks good to your neighbor. And even between you and a spouse, you may have different ideas of what that should look like, and that's okay.
Yep. Just find a way to make it happen. That's the important thing. I know when I started out, I tried to do the cash envelope method.
Yeah.
And I did not like having the cash around like that.
Yeah.
So I did my own hybrid version of the digital envelope thing, but now it's all virtual.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to do the cash envelope system these days. There's a lot of places where you can't buy things on Amazon with cash.
Well, and if you went to a Twins game, you can't. They don't take cash anymore.
Yeah.
If you wanted to buy some peanuts.
Yeah. That's where that, that digital envelope method can come in really handy.
Yep. And yeah. I think the actual cash envelope is just, if you really are afraid you don't have enough discipline, that's one way to do it because it forces discipline.
Exactly.
Okay. Fantastic information, of course. But of course, there's a lot more to this topic than we've even covered. So where can I go to find out more information?
Yeah, as always, I encourage our listeners to visit firstalliancecu.com. You can subscribe to our blog. We release new financial tips and advice there every week. You can listen to past episodes of this show at firstalliancecu.com/podcast or on krocnews.com. You can also subscribe to Good Money Moves on Apple, Google, and Spotify podcasts. And if you love the show, please take a moment to leave us a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Or if you have a financial topic that you would like us to cover or questions you'd like answered on Good Money Moves, please send me an email at marketing@firstalliancecu.com. And of course, I strongly encourage you to reach out to our team at First Alliance Credit Union. They're here to help you start making good money moves today.
And they're the ones who, if you're stuck on this budgeting thing, could probably really help you out a lot.
Absolutely.
To figure out which way would work best for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's First Alliance Credit Union, federally insured by NCUA and an equal housing lender. And this is Good Money Moves with Jenna Taubel. Jenna, well, I guess get together again next week and find another topic.
Absolutely.
Look forward to it. Jenna Taubel with First Alliance Credit Union. I'm Andy Brownell. This is Good Money Moves on News Talk 1340 KROC AM and 96.9 FM.